wait for a minute or two just to give time for people to catch up and join us here on the Facebook group. If you are there, if you can just put a comment in the chat box or the comment box, I guess it is on Facebook, just let us know that you're there, and we'll be starting in just a minute or so.
So what's the weather like in Colorado? We have had a few 90-degree days out of nowhere.
It's been nice. Like it was 60 yesterday. I went for a walk. It was very nice. It's supposed to snow tomorrow though, so, but I like the cold, so I'm good with it. Angie is here. Hi, Angie. Down in Florida. Warm weather in Florida probably too. That seems hot though, even for Texas this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a little out of place. So we're going to some heat warnings and all of that more like April, but starting it in May, some rotations with groups and a few other things. But it is well good. At least it's nice outside.
Well, yeah. Actually, 60 here is super nice. If the sun's out. I mean, I didn't have a coat on yesterday. I had a sweatshirt on, but not a coat, which is good. Ranger's getting lots of walks right now. I think I'm just building up his endurance is all I'm doing.
Have you seen some of those memes where it's like, no, I will not go for another walk?
Yeah, I have seen those. That's pretty funny. Christy from Golden Paws is here, and Angie says, great pool weather down in the lower for lowering stress. Yeah, that would be good pool weather. Nicole is here from Pet and Play. Suzanne is here. Suzanne, she must have went to the other room to watch us. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks for all of you who are joining us from all over the place. We're glad you're here. And I'm Robin Bennett, by the way. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the co-founder of the Dog Gurus. And joining me, right now, we have Jennifer Wolf-Pearson, who's the GM at ABC Pet Resort, and also one of the folks who runs the Pet Care Boot Camp. And they do, down at ABC, they do a lot of help for people who are looking at how to run an operation for a pet care facility. So we have asked her to come in, and hopefully Alex McKinnon is going to join us as well. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And our main topic to talk about today is really all about operational efficiency. So we know that people are working with a much reduced staff. And we also know that at some point this is going to change. So how do you look at business recovery? So we're going to talk about those two things just in terms of operating and then ultimately recovering on the other end of this. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to first kind of just throw out that question, Jennifer, of why is this a good time to talk about operations in general?
Yeah, it's really, there's no other perfect time. I mean, you can pretty much reset your business if you need to. I'm sure as we've all gone through this, we've seen some holes that we didn't know were there. It's really the perfect opportunity to create whatever you want and improve the health of your business, and really start planning for when it's going to open back up, because this is going to pass. This too shall pass. So we've really got to dig into our staffing levels and efficiency from top to bottom. Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, the other day I was telling someone, look, this is actually a good time if you maybe were overstaffed, or maybe you just had the wrong people in the wrong place, or maybe you just wanted to reorganize and you were just like, oh, how am I going to reorganize? This is actually a really good time, sort of an unfortunate situation, but it actually does allow you an excellent time to bring everybody back into the right position and into the right organization. So that does for you, of those of you that own the company or your general managers, this is actually your time to not take a break, but get to work deciding what you really want your organization to look like. I actually had someone email me yesterday saying she's considering redoing her whole business model. And so again, great time to do that. All right, I'm going to bring in Alex because he is here. So Alex, we're going to have you join us in 2 seconds. There's Alex. Hi, Alex. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Sorry about the delay.
Oh, no. See, nobody would have even known, Alex. We were covering for you. Alex is here from Kin Inc. So we're going to have him answering some of these questions. He has a lot of experience just in terms of Efficiencies and also just a lot of business experience, not all in the pet industry, but he brings a huge wealth. He also knows a lot about wine, but that will be another another Facebook Live when we can talk about wine. Anyway, so getting back to Jen, just talking about how you're going to figure out your team once you get through all of this. So what would really be the first step to revising your operations? What do you think you should be looking at?
Yeah, looking at your staff, that's really the first step. ABC this month celebrated 29 years, and we thought we had the best team, and we still think we have the best team out there. Some employees have been with us since day one, 29 years. But as we went through this process, we were able to reevaluate everyone on the team. We went through 3 different categories and really kind of ranked who we had, and that's how we made the decision to scale down. And if you're already closed, you can kind of go through those conversations that you had and start building your team based off of some different categories, and make a plan as to who needs to come back in first and how you're going to make that transition.
So for you guys, and I know we had talked about this before, but you guys really look at some of the core competencies that aren't necessarily pet specific. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our 3 that we've looked at in this period was, the first was servant leadership. What's their attitude about this situation? Are they talking about we, us, what can we do as a whole? Or are they worried about themselves? Are they asking I? Are they saying you? What can you do to help me? So that was the biggest piece for us, is their attitude walking into it. The next was, their willingness to work in other departments. We had a few that had been with us for so long, but were just so stuck only wanting to do one thing. And when you scale down, everybody has to work everywhere. So those that was a big factor. And then the next is people that are willing to have some shift flexibility. All of us want to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And we had a few positions like that, but going forward, we're just not going to be able to keep them in those hours. So those were the 3 things that we looked at.
And then I know, Alex, we've talked before about, you have always said that your number one asset in a pet facility is your employees. And so talk a little bit about what you think are some of those critical skills as well, because I think you have a lot in terms of what values people should have too.
Sure. Well, for downsizing or for growth, the people criteria that we think are most important can be summarized in one word, which is values. So for downsizing, in addition to job performance, lack of support for values would be the top reasons for letting someone go. For example, our company's 3 values are innovation, sustainability, and trust. And in 2019, we added several people in several areas to support growth. Ironically, the person that looked the best on paper on the resume, did the best in the interviews, and initially had some of the best marketing plans, violated our trust by putting their ego over the best interest of teamwork. So we let them go. And it's really the same thing for growth. And interestingly, for the same person, the source of their egos, I guess, biggest irritation, and the person he blamed the most often for the shortcomings was a new young marketer. And now, with that person out of the way, this new young marketer has really blossomed, and our teamwork has never been better. And our growth up until COVID-19 was terrific. Like everybody else, we're going through some challenges, but this new marketer is really now helping us power through and come out stronger on the other side. And to quote somebody who's a lot wiser than I certainly ever will be, which is Warren Buffett, to quote him, he said, "You're looking for 3 things generally in a person: intelligence, energy, and integrity. And if they don't have the last one, then don't even bother with the first 2."
Yeah, and I would totally agree with that. I have always been a big proponent of hiring for the integrity and the kindness and all those skills that have nothing to do with necessarily with pets. And it sounds like you guys are both there. So for those of you that have had to lay people off, this is an opportunity to kind of get your thoughts in mind for what is your facility going to look like when you bring them back? Do you want to realign anything? Do you want to reorganize? But then, as Jennifer and Alex are saying, start listing what are the most important assets of all those people. And this may be a time that you make decisions about who you're bringing back, when you're bringing them back, what they're going to do when you bring them back, or if you're not going to bring them back. So, and that's kind of a harsh thing to say, but again, we're going to get through this, and on the other side, you have to have a recovery plan, and the recovery plan may not be bring everybody back the same way things were when you left, especially if you already were looking at changes to begin with. This is your opportunity to really get a solid plan. So Jennifer, going back to this kind of the scheduling of all this, what have you guys done in terms of scheduling for this pandemic?
Absolutely. Well, first, you want to make sure that you're keeping everybody safe, your staff and your clients. There's tons of resources on the Dog Gurus page. So if you're looking for types of cleaners and some things like that, the biggest tip that I have is do what you can to eliminate shift overlaps. We've found to follow CDC guidelines, we really can only have one employee as a receptionist and then one person in our kennel kitchen meal prepping, some other key places we just don't have enough room. So we've eliminated those shift overlaps. And that's really only created an issue for lunches, who covers what, but then again, back to who you have on staff, we've really leaned on those that can work in multiple departments. So if our receptionist needs to go on lunch, the lodging tech will take it for that hour, and a daycare staff member will come in and run the kennel. So it's just kind of a game of moving people around, but that's been how we've been able to keep everybody safe as best as possible.
And what are you doing in terms of tracking your labor to revenue right now? Has that changed? Does it look worse? Does it look better?
Well, we've gone from tracking it just from payroll run to payroll run. We're doing it every single day now, and it's kind of scary to look at. We're running between 80 and 90% on our payroll percentage, and it's huge. But that tells me we should probably continue to stay open. If we closed, we would lose that 10 to 20% that we can, every little bit counts. Plus, we get to keep our awesome team members here. We're still able to make payroll. So that's why we're watching it every single day, because we might have to change those things quickly. We're already having to make some moves in our grooming department because we're much busier there than we thought we were going to be. So we're actually going to be bringing in another employee to help with that.
And are you just tracking all that? Does your software track that, or are you guys tracking it manually?
We're tracking it manually. It seems like a whole lot, and it's not the most accurate because we aren't taking a look at our payroll taxes and some of those other things that go into the labor percentage, but we're just taking sales and comparing it to that day's payroll and watching it every single day.
And how are you doing your scheduling right now? Are you basing that on reservations are coming in? Or are you just guessing, or what tips do you have on that? Because I think that's a lot of people's concern is like, I don't know what's going on day to day.
Yeah, at what's going to be the bare minimum to keep our services open. So you're going to have to put pen to paper and figure out what that is for you. For us, that's 48 hours of labor a day. But we have, every profit center you can think of, every service you can think of, and we're doing our best to keep them all open. That's just what we found it's going to take for us.
And then Alex, do you have any tips on just all this staffing stuff and scheduling your teams? Anything else you want to add with that before we go on?
Well, with the preface that we're a vendor as opposed to being a facility, so my perspective might sound a little bit different, but Jennifer, Suzanne, and their team at ABC are the masters of the universe in many areas, including teams and scheduling. The main thing that comes to my mind to complement what Jen said is anything you can do to add flexibility to a team and their schedule, the better, as time is the most valuable resource. And as mentioned, Ken's values are innovation, sustainability, and trust. And when our innovation team looks at designing a new product or service, one of the top priorities is, can it bring more flexibility to the client, which I think many great brands try to accomplish. For example, our great mutual friends, Robin and Jen at Blue Nine, have done a great job with the Climb. That product has countless usage occasions, and it lets clients leverage their investment over multiple service areas like training, boarding, daycare. So when we designed the Clean Bowl, flexibility, which is our best-selling product, flexibility was the top priority, and flexibility was designed throughout it. And for example, one of the major benefits for lodging is you go from washing 12 ordinary pet bowls per 4-day stay down to just sanitizing 2 clean bowls. So it's an 80% reduction in time. So that gives the flexibility to the owner. Does she or he, do they want to take that 80% reduction in cleaning time and put it in the cost savings, or do they want to put it in more care revenue? And obviously, I think for most facilities these days, due to the COVID-19, most of them are going with cost savings. And as our product saves about 15 minutes cleaning per 4-day stay, if you're paying your staff $10 an hour, that's about $149 a year per enclosure. And if you end up at 40 occupied kennels, that's almost $6,000 a year in savings by being flexible. Now, as Jen said, we're going to get through this COVID-19. And you said the same thing, Robin. In the future, when business comes back, they can reinvest all that time into growing the business. And if they take that 15 minutes per stay, and the average enclosure has 4 stays per month, that's an hour per enclosure per month. And then if you say, well, we have 40 enclosures and we're going to charge $20 an hour, that can bring almost $10,000 in savings a year, which is a lot of money. And one of the things that Jen is one of our favorite clients says, we continue to learn from our clients, and we actually had flexibility that we didn't even know we had when we designed it, because as most of our clients use our product primarily for lodging, because when you use a frame on top of the refill, it makes it spill proof. But we've learned now that for spa time, when the dog's waiting to get picked up, or for daycare rest time, you can actually just use our refill, and that eliminates doing the dishes in that department, and it helps prevent cross-contamination. So thanks to Jen and other clients, we had flexibility we didn't even know we had created.
So, and Jen, can you talk about how that's helped? Because I know you were using those bowls ahead of time anyway.
Yes. Yeah. We've been using them in pretty much all of our departments for a while. But when this came in, we said, well, what would happen if we pulled the frame off and just used the insert? We started doing that for daycare for our naps, and then also putting them in our grooming department when they're the pets are waiting to go home. And now we don't have to do any dishes at all. We don't have a worry about cross-contamination. We're not worrying about, did we clean those frames well enough? Do we use enough chemical? Is it all, whatever goober on it, is it actually dead? We don't have to worry about any of that now. So we use them for food and for water for our daycare dogs, and then water for the grooming.
And I think for efficiency, especially if you are limited in your staff, it does save you their time to do something else other than washing, especially if you don't have a dishwasher or whatever. Usually in most facilities we've seen the dishwasher is a human, not a machine.
It's been a while since we rolled it out, but we were going into overtime every payroll run, and it was always because of dishes. We wouldn't see the alarm go off until 10:30 when they're supposed to head out at 9, and it's just like, they always left dishes to be the very last thing that they would do. So instantly we saved on overtime, and with what's going on now, it's just such an easy way to save a ton of labor.
Yeah.
Get them doing what's important.
Right. So we did have a couple questions. Ray wanted to know, what are your numbers lodging and daycare? We are down hardly any. And I know earlier before we went on, you were saying grooming is the same and daycare was the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've really only seen a major reduction in lodging, which is our largest profit center. So it's hurt us more than maybe some others. Everybody has a different profit margin mix or profit center mix. Daycare's pretty much stayed, I'd say about 20% down. Grooming's about the same. The big tip is reach out and let them know that you're open if you are open. I don't think they knew we were open. We had a stay-at-home order come through on Tuesday. Wednesday, we were really slow. We sent out a newsletter and a Facebook post, and then Thursday, we were back up to normal numbers.
Yeah, and we had talked about that before Jen and I came on. We were chit-chatting, and Colorado just went in a stay-at-home order yesterday, I think. Might have been 2 days ago. I don't know. All the days are mixing together. But in Colorado, the kennels are listed as an essential business. So if they're doing daycare, they're also able to continue daycare, and it's the same thing if people just don't know. So making sure that if you are allowed to stay open and you choose to stay open, then making sure your clients know that, and especially reaching out to those first responders and healthcare workers who may need your services more than any other person right now if their hours are different. So that's definitely an important factor for those of you that are able to stay open. So Alex, Denise asked, do the bowls hold water overnight, i.e. no leaking?
The short answer is yes. And forgive me, because this is not about our product. This is about the topic. But what a clean bowl is a sugarcane fiber refill. And for lodging, you put this frame on top to make it spill proof. And these are sugarcane fiber. They're not paper. If you fill this up with water, it will hold the water till it eventually evaporates. So yes, it'll hold the water overnight. And
I actually use the kin bowls for my own personal dogs at home. And I have ever since I took the kin bowl challenge with Alex dared me to take one time of putting water on the ground, one with my dog's regular bowl and one with the kin bowl. And my dog from that point on would only drink from the kin bowl. But so I use it anyway, but it does hold water overnight. I change the water bowl usually every other day anyway, but it will hold water overnight. All right, so I'm going to go back to kind of getting through the pandemic to the other side. And once things are back up and running, how are you guys looking at increasing your staffing, or how are you looking at bringing people back? Do you have a plan that you all have started talking about?
We have. It's back to that payroll percentage. It's a topic a lot of people don't like, really digging into. It's not any fun, but you have to make sure you're not making decisions based off of, I feel like we're busy, or I feel like this is the department that needs the most help. You really want to make sure you're watching that payroll percentage and have your goal in mind. Where do you want to be? What's a healthy payroll percentage for you? If you can track it by department, that's going to help you make the best decision. We're lucky that we've been able to separate that out and look at it by department. We want to hold off adding another team member to each department until we're at least about 10% below what our target is for that department. Because once you add that team member, that percentage is going to skyrocket right back up. So just really watching that is our first key.
And what payroll percentage do you guys normally shoot for?
It's going to really vary by your service mix. I personally here, we run right at around 40%, but that's because we're really heavy in lodging. If you're mainly a daycare facility, then it's going to be 50. So it's really dependent on that. So that's why we say if you can break it down by department, and it's even going to depend on how you pay your groomers. What's your commission rate? And same for your trainers. How's your pay? That's going to really plug into that. But whatever your target is, before you add another person, make sure you're running at about 10% below that to give you a little room to move.
Yeah, and that's great. Plus, the other thing is you don't want to bring someone back and then have to let them go again.
Yeah.
So that's the other kind of challenge as you start to figure out when this ends and when we start recovering as a community, wherever your community is. I think that's an important thing to consider too. So how are you keeping in touch with your employees that aren't there now, and then also the employees that are working different shifts? How are you keeping them up to
Well,
things?
first to talk, since we don't have any overlapping shifts, communication has become a pretty hot topic, because usually we'd call it the daily five, where we would just meet for 5 minutes and say, hey, make sure you watch Rocco. But there's so many different platforms you can use. There's closed Facebook groups. Some of your timekeeping software might have a communication portal, or even just group text. But whichever way you go, make sure it's consistent and that everybody can have access. So instead of our daily five, we're having end of shift reports, and we don't have that many overnight guests, so it's not much to ask that they let us know anything that happened with appetite or eliminations throughout that day. What chores they got done, what needs to be completed, do I need to order anything? So we have those things as a checklist that they need to answer. I've looped myself into these just because I want to make sure if somebody forgets that I can reach out and, hey, what happened today? So just be involved with it as an operator. But so for the people that unfortunately we had to furlough, I think it's important that you reach out and you do say, hey, how's it going? We just went through that process Monday, Tuesday. So the next step was reaching out again and saying, hey, how did things go with unemployment? Was the website working? Were you able to get through to somebody? A few of them, we've already gotten the employer response in through the mail. So we were able to let them know, hey, we know it's at the next step. So, make sure you're letting them know that you still care and you're still here and what your plan is. Tell them, hey, we're watching this too. We're starting to think of some dates where we might be able to start calling people back. We had one for grooming example where we're busier there than we thought. So we've been able to reach out and say, hey, this might happen sooner than later. Just so, are you still on board with coming back? So reach out for sure.
Yeah, and we talked to Joe from Paragon School of Grooming yesterday, and he actually made a great recommendation that to bring people on that you can teach limited like prep work for the grooming department, because we do kind of think grooming is going to be one of the first services that does recover quickly, because people are going to want to get their dog groomed, just like all of us that want to go get our haircuts after it's over. So having somebody that's able to come on and do some basic prep work for the groomer, if you've got a grooming department, might be really important. And for those businesses that just are offering baths or nail trims, I mean, getting the word out that those are available. You may see people coming in for that service before anything else as one of the fastest services, but you may get overwhelmed too. So I think that's a great idea. And then talking about kind of operational efficiencies, Jen, what things have you kind of considered with your limited staff as to how you're managing and being more efficient?
Yeah. So we luckily had an emergency protocol through our SOPs, and we really leaned on that. And that really called up for us to condense our services and our expectations onto just one list. So we had one list of job duties, expectations, and it was ranked. So we had it separated between essential and non-essential. So we know that those star jobs, we call them here star jobs, or essential jobs, have to be done no matter what. So those are the top of that main master list. And then the rest of our chores are ranked by importance. So our star jobs are, doing entry and exit evaluations, maintaining the vacuum system. But then we'll start going to things like, filing contracts. We can wait for things like that until this is over. But having that central list of items for everybody on the team, no matter what department they're used to, has really been able to keep those main things running.
So all of that was you were already prepared with all of that because you had a disaster plan in place. Okay.
Yes.
So which again, for those that do not have those SOPs or disaster plans, that's the other thing you can be working on right now. If you don't have those standard operating procedures, this is the time while you are not as busy with clients that I would like to say all those pet care facility owners should be taking a break. But the reality is you're busier than ever, probably because you're worried about your clients, you're worried about recovery, you're worried about, how this is going to play out in the long run. But take some time too to start writing some of these documents that are going to help you run more efficiently at the other end of this thing. So definitely don't rule that out. And then Alex, I know you were going to talk a little bit, and we had some questions actually about where you find the bowls and a little bit more about the bowls. But I also know you can talk a little bit about sustainability for those. So if you want to kind of answer those questions and just take a minute to talk about that, that would be great.
Would you rather I talk about sanitation or sustainability?
Both, I guess.
Okay.
But you have to keep it short.
What's that?
As long as you keep it short, you can do both.
Okay. Well, basically, as background, the story on how our team developed this is we worked with veterinarians. And for those of you who follow veterinarians, our product is recommended by Fear Free, which is Dr. Marty Becker's organization. But to cut to the chase, the vets that we were working with told us there were sanitation issues with pet bowls. And this was right when we got into the industry. So we did some research, which we're going to summarize right now. And if anybody wants the details on this and they're having trouble sleeping, we'd be happy to send it to you. So basically, the first thing we found for the Center for Disease Control, or as it's lovingly called, the CDC, they determined that the two common steam sterilizing temperatures are 250 and 270 degrees Fahrenheit. And guess what? The hottest a commercial dishwasher ever gets is about 185 degrees. Hence, it should not come as a surprise that dishwashers don't get hot enough to kill all the bacteria and viruses. And if you're skeptical, we're going to give you 3 data points. The U.S. National Center for Biotechnology Information, together with the Canadian Veterinary Medical Association, did research and found that 67% of pet bowls still have salmonella in them after going through the dishwasher's hottest cycle. And the numbers are even worse with just hand washing. And then the Ohio State University for Clinical and Transitional Science. And this is the quote, their summary. We can now see that commercial dishwasher protocols are less effective at removing and killing viruses. And this may help explain why there are so many illnesses caused by cross-contaminated food. So you might say, well, where is this going? The bottom line is because this is a sugarcane fiber bowl and is packed in a sterile environment, when you recycle or compost this, you're literally throwing away the germs and you eliminate 100% of the germs. And as Robin alluded to, dogs can actually smell there are no germs in there. They can smell it's free of cleaning chemicals. So they're going to drink more water for healthier hydration. They're going to eat more food for better nutrition. And if you're skeptical, you can do the clean bowl challenge like Robin did and let your dog or cat choose. And if your dog or cat picks your ordinary bowl, then tell us and we'll send you your money back. So far, we haven't returned anybody's money, including our Robin's and my friend, Jamie Popper, who may be listening.
And we did put a link to that clean bowl challenge in the comments, so you can find it there. And we'll also put it on the COVID-19 page after this is over. But it's definitely something to consider. And as Jen mentioned earlier, it does save you in terms of efficiency. It does save you time and it saves your staff time. So it is something to consider if you're not using it now on the other end of COVID-19, to bring your staff in and let them spend more time with the dogs than they spend cleaning dishes. And I can guarantee you your staff will be happier if they're doing hand washing of dishes. So that's the other good thing about it.
And then you asked about sustainability. Long story short, if you recycle this in the paper stream, you're going to reduce environmental waste by over 100% versus washing, by reducing energy use, greenhouse gases. And if you're skeptical, go to sustainablepetbowl.com, where you'll see a third-party independent case study from the Pet Sustainability Coalition. And thank you for listening to
that. Thanks, Alex. So Jen, I know we talked a little bit about you've been documenting changes in your SOP. Have you changed a lot, or what are you doing right now in terms of your SOP?
Yeah, well, we actually have changed quite a bit with staffing levels and there's a lot more responsibility that can cross between different departments that we've found that we could make permanent. And now is really the time to read through it and say, are we doing that? Should we do that if we're not doing it? And should we eliminate it if we're not? If you don't have one, you really should get going on it because it saved us. It was an easy, pull out the book and turn to national, disasters. What do we do? Okay, there's what we do. We all could find it and move forward with a plan. But it's really kind of a daunting task. Nobody really likes to write all of these things down. So don't reinvent it. We actually have the Dog Guru's SOP as our template or the base of ours. So just pick that up and read through it and make adjustments that are specific to your facility and keep it a live document. Make sure you're always having discussions using it as a basis. I feel for people that say, well, we've had it since grand open, but it's just sitting there collecting dust and, nobody's doing what I want them to. Well, if you don't really discuss it and have the book out and ask questions and be willing to change it from time to time, of course it's going to die. So, get to work on that if you have some downtime and don't be afraid to make changes. We've made a ton and we'll probably continue to find more things to do too.
Yeah, and I do think this is one of the advantages with when your staff does come back on, you can have them take those parts of the SOP that they're responsible for implementing and have them read through it and have them make changes. For those that have never created an SOP before, that's generally how we recommend building your SOP is we tell you, like, go to every employee and say, write how you do this process. And the interesting thing about that is if you have 4 people that do the same process and you tell all 4 of them to write it down, you often will get 4 different processes. So it's also a good way to find out where there's inconsistencies in your training, which does make you less efficient if we're not all doing things the same way. So it's also a good reality check to say, okay, we need to go back to the drawing board on how we're training people because we have 4 different people doing the same job and they're doing it 4 different ways. So it allows you to become more efficient in that sense as well. We did have a couple people saying, do you have SOPs you can share? So if you guys want to share, your SOPs with each other, you're definitely welcome to do that and just reach out to each other on Facebook. The Dog Gurus, we do have a template that you can start with. It's a 99-page Word document. So that is available too. And that gives you all of the key components, but as Jennifer said, you would want to go through there and, make it your own. And then I agree with what Jennifer just said, which is it's a living document. So you do want to change it and update it as you go. But coming out of this, that's the better your SOP is, the better you can train people, because that should be anyway, the bottom line of how you train. It should be all in accordance with your SOP. So it gives you a training schedule to go by as well. So that will help just in terms of becoming more efficient as you bring people back on. So I would definitely pay attention to that. And then if you really want to learn how to operate, Jen, do you want to talk about the boot camp that you guys offer? Because that one of the reasons we asked these folks to come on is because Alex definitely has a product that can help you become more efficient. And then at ABC Pet Resort, they do offer a kind of a boot camp on facility operations. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, Jen, to help people understand some of that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so ABC's been here for almost 30 years. Suzanne and Al have just been so involved with the industry. Al is a builder. So he's designed and built pet resorts throughout the country. And we were already doing this with those clients, bringing them in, showing them a live resort, showing them how our employees interact and how the workflow, how you can manage that. We're not here to teach people how to groom a dog or how to run daycare. We want to show you how to actually do it in that position. We're here to show you how to run it, how to be a business owner, how to be a manager. So we've worked with people that already have locations up and running. We also can help with department managers. If you have a lodging manager that maybe just needs a little extra help, we've worked with them for a few days. But it's just a great way to know what you're getting into. A lot of newbies that were just at the beginning of the stage came in, spent a week with us, and either said, yeah, I want to do this, or wow, that's a whole lot more work than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. So you can find more info on us at petcarebootcamp.com, or we have our Facebook page. I think we put a link up for you.
Yeah. There's a link in there. So if you want to learn more about operations, and that's a great hands-on way to do it. And so we appreciate you guys being here. And then Alex, you can also make money from the Kinbowl. So do you want to talk about the affiliate program too?
Sure, but before I just wanted to echo what Robin says, because we've worked with Jen and Suzanne and Al for multiple years now, and we have lots of clients who work with the Dog Gurus, lots of clients that work with Jen, and all the feedback we get from what Pet Care Boot Camp does is amazing. So I'll just leave it at that. On the affiliate program, we actually have a program that it's on our website. It's called the PAC Affiliate Program. Our website is kinninc.com, KINNINC.com. And it's easy and free to sign up. And every time you refer someone to us and they purchase, we will pay you a sales commission. It starts off around 5%, and then it goes up to 12%. So basically, we can help you make extra money that way.
Yeah, and so on one of our revenue generating Facebook Lives, we talked about affiliate income with Amazon or Blue Nine. You can purchase at dealer rates and they will drop ship and you can make a little money that way. And then this is another opportunity. And I will tell you, because I am a pet parent that uses it, it's great if you travel a lot. It's so much easier to use the Kinbowl in a hotel. I can guarantee you that. We also have an RV, so it's super easy to use in an RV. So if you've got pet parents looking for and especially if you feed a raw diet, because I do that also, there's a whole bunch of reasons why I use that bowl. So for pet parents in those categories, it is another way to generate revenue as well. So anyway, I appreciate you guys being on, talking a little bit about how to be efficient, how to really, for all of those pet industry business owners that are out there, not as busy in their normal day-to-day work that they usually are. This is the time to really look at what do you want your business to look like when we come out of COVID-19. So start making those plans, start working on your SOPs, reach out to us or Alex or Jennifer if you have questions, and we're all here to help you. And hopefully this has helped to get you kind of thinking about the recovery stage instead of the crazy stage we're in right now. So, but Jennifer and Alex, I appreciate you being here too.
Thank you for having us.
All right. Talk to everybody later.